Everyone, and welcome back to Menopause, the Menopause Series. My name is Kelly Coulter. I am your host, creator, and producer of the series. And today we have a special treat for you because we're still here. We brought back Bryn and Tracey. And if you missed the first episode, please watch it because we have just so much information to share with you today. And I'm hoping that this will be almost like we can do this every year because it's critical what we're talking about. And so for our viewers that didn't see the first episode, do you want to reintroduce yourselves, please?
Absolutely. Hello, Kelly. Happy to be back. I'm a registered counselor here in Victoria. I've worked in mental health for about 25 years.
Wow.
I am a certified trained Daring Way facilitator, and that means I can teach the work based on the research of Dr. Brene Brown.
Okay.
I have a master's degree in healthcare leadership, and my focus in research was on reducing shame and stigma in primary care for people who use substances.
Oh, wow. Okay. But good work.
Thank you.
Good work, Bryn. Tracey?
My name is Tracey Rodgers. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist, and I've been practicing since 2002. And for most of my time in practice, I did maternity, gynae. And for the last 2 years now, my practice is focused entirely on management of hormonal disorders, mostly perimenopause and menopause.
Okay.
Bryn and I met doing the same master's degree.
Okay.
And I also trained for Daring Way with Brene Brown in 2019. So we have a lot of overlap, and Bryn's training and background and focus and the way I approach midlife care, they just intersect so beautifully.
Yeah.
So it makes sense how we've partnered up to do this kind of work.
Yeah. And what a blessing to have not only found each other, but also to have created this platform that you've created with Menopalooza, which we talked about in the previous episode. Menopalooza was an event held here in Victoria last year or this year, but will be airing next year. So it's last year. Complicated. And so this is what has brought us all together because I got involved with Menopalooza. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for that experience. It was truly one of the most fantastic experiences of my life. So thank you. I don't want to cry. Today, I want you to talk about what you want to talk about because there's so much that we can be discussing, but you are the experts. I'm just the facilitator here. So maybe I don't know who wants to go first, but I know that this is a great platform. We have a huge audience across Canada and locally. Today, I really feel like you guys need to take the stage. You're the experts. I'm just the facilitator here. I'm learning so much from you both in every conversation that we've had. And I think our viewers really need to hear some of your wisdom today. So I don't know who wants to start on that or if you want to have a discussion between the three of us, but maybe.
I think I'll start just a bit of the container building of how this is kind of coming to be in a different light.
Yeah.
In our last conversation, we talked about the importance in terms of creating change requires innovation.
Yeah.
And innovation can feel vulnerable and risky.
Yeah.
Right? We're kind of at the edge of something, but in order to do something new, to create something new, that require, and I think, Kelly, this is part of what you were able to help us with at Menopalooza is facilitating storytelling.
Oh.
right?
I didn't know that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, and through your pod, this is about our lived experience, our shared and collective wisdom.
Yeah.
Bringing that together.
I'm a huge believer in storytelling. Yeah. It is the way.
Yes. Well, Brene Brown, to quote Brene Brown, she says, when we own our stories, we get to write the ending.
Oh.
So taking control of this narrative that's been outside of our control for women in women's health.
Okay.
And shine the line back in.
So we're telling those stories. Oh, I like that. Yes.
Right. And my take is always, if you're not willing to contribute more than you criticize, then I'm not really interested in the conversation. Right. We can diagnose problems. That's a problem. That's a problem. Oh, that healthcare system is really.
Yeah.
What's the solution? What's our contribution to the solution? So at Menopalooza, along with bringing folks together and creating connection and community.
Yeah.
A part of it is solution focused. Where are the gaps in the system and what can we do to fill those gaps? And so that was a huge underlying, that was kind of the parts that people didn't see when they were there, but that's what's emerging out of this process.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a huge strategist. I love strategy. It's one of my happy places. And so it's all about what is the solution. And I'm really respectful of that mission that is at the forefront of your mind, that we are here to create change. I like to say we're starting a little revolution. You're in Victoria, British Columbia.
Our revolution has twinkly lights and snacks.
Yeah.
It's just how we
and
do
dancing.
it. And dancing.
And dance parties and humor.
Well, that's to create, I keep using the term creating the conditions, but we create the conditions where people feel safe to come out and share their stories.
Agreed.
Right? We create an environment that is conducive to storytelling.
Yes.
Kind of like what you're doing here.
Yeah. And there was so much vulnerability in the stories that were told on the stage and at the tables at Menopalooza. It was a big room, but it was an intimate setting, right? And I loved how you created this beautiful energy. It was an energy. There was I don't know, are there devices where you can figure out how much energy is going on in the room? The energy was fantastic. So going back to the solution, what in your mind, if you had a wish list, would be some thoughts or ideas or,
how are women supposed to get their needs met when they don't know what their needs are?
Okay.
So we're talking about things like women don't know, they don't even know that they're experiencing symptoms of perimenopause and menopause.
I'm one of those women.
We don't know. We don't even know if we're struggling sometimes with around mental health, depression, anxiety, these pieces, because we're just kind of trucking along. There's
keep on trucking.
There's an idea of there is a nobility in suffering and silence.
Yep.
Tracey and I were talking this morning before we met here today. We went for coffee and talking about the notion that women somehow have a higher pain tolerance. And my question is,
but they don't.
Do we? Or are we conditioned?
Yeah. Oh, I've never thought of that.
Are we conditioned to tolerate
we were
pain?
Stronger?
Just because we're stronger doesn't mean it hurts less.
I think we're stronger because we have to be.
Good point, Tracey.
Yeah.
It's like the scene in Fleabag where she says women live with pain on the inside and men have to go find it.
Yes.
I
love that scene. I just for the viewers watch Fleabag.
It's brilliant. And for me, talking about stories and this whole, we talked about grounded theory research in part 1. The reason I'm the physician I am is because of my patients and their stories. I didn't learn what I know now about menopause in my training. My training was terribly inadequate for that. But if you listen to women, it's listening to it's all of the women who were gracious enough to share with me their stories of vulnerability and pain and dismissal and suffering that have allowed me to sort of put connect the dots and see the patterns.
Okay.
I've learned more from my patients than I have from anything else.
This is a little bit of a light bulb for me because, we're almost like, we almost have like what they call it white coat anxiety or something,
Yeah.
don't they? And so, you want to be very respectful of your doctor's time and all of that. But if you're informing them by telling them, the meat of the matter,
Mhm.
that is a service that you're
Yeah.
providing.
Yeah.
I like that. Oh, thank you for
Well,
saying that.
and there's a
Tracey.
reason it's the way it is. Like, this is going off on a tiny bit of a tangent, but when we talk about vulnerability,
Yes.
like we created an atmosphere for safe vulnerability
Yes. Yeah, at Menopause.
at Menopause.
Yes.
In medicine, the vulnerability is beaten out of us.
Oh.
So we are asked to be invulnerable. So if you look at medical training,
Yeah.
especially when I trained,
Yeah.
long hours, some of my shifts were 72 hours. Nobody cared if you had eaten, if you needed to go to the bathroom,
Right.
and you weren't supposed to show emotion. You always had to have the right answer. We were humiliated for being wrong
Oh.
or not knowing. But at the same time, you're supposed to connect with people, show empathy,
Yeah.
be there for people, which are all inherently vulnerable processes. So we're
Yeah.
asked to be invulnerable in an environment that absolutely demands vulnerability. That creates cognitive dissonance. That's where burnout and
Yeah.
compassion fatigue
Yeah.
come from. I sort of have embraced my vulnerability as a physician for a long
I think
time. I share my own personal experience.
Yeah.
And I think women open up to me because I can create that safety because I'm willing to be vulnerable.
you have I don't know what, like a magic. You do. You
I'm
really
just starting
do.
to see it because I'm my own worst critic. We said that at Menopause. Who's your worst critic? And everybody goes, me. And Bryn said, I'm waiting for somebody to say, my mom, but it's not your mom. It's
That might
right?
be it. Might
It's very
apply
hard
to me,
see
actually.
your own magic sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Can you say that again?
It's very hard to see your own magic sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Women are really good at seeing magic in other people, but we kind of suck at seeing it in ourselves. And I'm no different than most women. Like a lot of us live in a body we're not happy with. We're hard on ourselves. We
Yeah.
beat ourselves up
Yep.
in our head. So one of the other aspects of menopause care that Bryn and I are really getting passionate about, because when you talk about what we've created, I'm like, we're just getting started.
Oh yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
is what
That's exciting to hear.
exactly.
Thank you.
It's something I've been referring to for a number of years as the inside work of menopause.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of look at the outside work is like what I do in my day-to-day job.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have thyroid disease? Are your labs
Mhm.
okay? Are you in menopause? Do you need hormones?
Mhm.
Blah, blah, blah. But the inside work is the calling to come home to yourself and heal your relationship with yourself. That's that whole self-compassion
Wow.
piece, self-love. And
Yeah.
this is not look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. But
Although that doesn't hurt.
it doesn't hurt, but for a lot of women who really struggle with self-loathing, that feels
Yeah.
placating, like just do yoga or just breathe.
Yeah. What do they call it? Toxic wellness.
Toxic
Yeah,
positivity.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I sort of look at that as menopause is your body calling you home,
I love that.
right? It's like
expression.
your body goes,
I believe
"Hey,
that.
Kelly,
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed or not, but I can't keep up with this anymore. Like you have to pay more attention to me.
Exactly.
Move me higher up the priorities.
What I always say that one of the gifts, and there are more than one,
Loads.
yeah, of menopause is that your body forces you to listen to
It
it.
does.
And you may have not ever done that before in your life.
If you haven't done it before in your life, you will when you go through menopause.
Yes, you will.
So I sort of
Not laughing.
I look at the inside work as reconciling your relationship with your mind or the voice in your
Okay.
head, the way you talk to yourself, the body that you're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Because you spend your whole entire life hating your body. Like, that's horrible. You're not getting a new one.
And I think that's pretty
Mhm.
universal.
It is.
Yeah.
The number one shame trigger for human beings is our bodies.
Yeah. And there's
Especially
some
women.
Yeah, and there are some really good things that are happening. I don't know what your algorithm is, but mine is feminism, menopause, and probably more feminism. But yeah, there are two shifts going on in this world right now with regards, especially to younger women. Is I'm seeing them really grasping on to their sovereignty, and that's what I like to think happens after menopause too. So I'm seeing it in younger and younger women, and I find that very hopeful. But then there's also the body shaming is ramping up again in a really bad way. I don't know how to best frame it, but I don't even know if I want to talk about it, to be honest with you, but it's about weight again, right? And it's like, please stop this.
Well, the feminist lens, I think it was Naomi Wolf who talked about the obsession with female thinness is not about beauty. It's about oppression.
Yeah. And control.
Oppression and control and objectifying the woman's body. If every woman woke up tomorrow morning around the world and was like, I'm amazing. Like, oh, look at this.
Exactly.
I'm incredible. The world economy would initially crash because we would leave bad relationships, bad jobs. We would not tolerate being treated poorly. So things would have to reorder themselves.
Well, I think that's kind of starting to happen.
And we need to put our foot on the gas here because there's a backlash that's starting to come in around this.
Yeah.
And if we could reclaim, if I could reclaim the time and energy, money I have spent oppressing, harming, putting myself down,
the money,
what would the world look like? And I mentioned to you this before, Kelly, the idea of if being hard on ourselves, if criticizing ourselves and beating ourselves up made us change, I would be out of work.
Amazing.
Right?
If that works, I'd be incredible.
There'd be no treatment centers. There'd be no counselors. There'd be no, it does not work. It has the opposite effect. All of our worst, most harmful, devastating behaviors are born from shame and criticism.
So I just want to say that I have said this on the podcast. It's a little, I don't know, edgy maybe, but they are always trying to take your money. Remember that, you know? So keep your eye on your money.
The entire economy is based on our low self-esteem.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So enough. We're not going to take it anymore.
No. Okay. So we have talked about many things, and some of them are really overarching themes, right? What are we missing in current discourse, in your opinion? Tracey, this might be something that you might want to talk about in the medical.
We're missing so much. Like, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
But if you just look at one simple thing, and like, let's say hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
Do I think all women need to be on hormone replacement therapy? Of course not. But I also think a lot of women who would benefit from hormones are not on hormones.
Okay.
And I find that the way we treat the management of menopause in medicine is night and day different to other things.
I agree.
So, for example, if you don't have hot flashes, but you have a million other symptoms and you want to try hormones, a lot of the times your physician says, no, you don't need that. I'm not giving it. It's too risky or whatever.
Right.
But when you actually look at the risks of hormone replacement therapy, they are so small. And the potential to be life-changing so huge.
Right.
So if you look at other areas of medicine where we accept risk like it's an inherent part of things, like a joint replacement, that's risky surgery with complications of infection, blood loss, pulmonary embolism, but we do them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
and nobody necessarily dies without a knee replacement. It's a quality of life surgery.
Right.
And the risks are way higher than hormones, but we're telling women they're not allowed
Yeah.
to have hormones. So I did surgery for years. Part of doing elective surgery is informed consent. These are the risks, these are the benefits, you choose.
Right.
But in hormones, we gatekeep. We say you're not
Can
allowed.
you repeat that?
We gatekeep.
In hormone.
In hormone replacement, we gatekeep. We tell women, I decide that this is too risky for you.
Right.
And if you look at the breast cancer data that turned menopause care in its head,
Mm-hmm.
there in the women who took estrogen alone, there was a reduction in breast cancer risk. The media ignored that.
Right.
In the combined estrogen progestin group, there were 8 additional breast cancers per 10,000 women after they'd been on hormones for 5 years. So 8 per 10,000 is 0.8 per 1,000 is 0.08 per 100. And we're saying you're not allowed to accept that risk.
Yeah.
I don't understand the misogyny and gatekeeping, but I'll give you a classic example. My specialty is called whiny gynae. Whiny gynae because apparently I take care of whiny women. The medical term
that was something that
it's true.
Doctors were
I've been hearing
using.
it for years.
Yeah.
The medical term for painful intercourse for women is dyspareunia.
Yeah.
I heard a million times in medical school, better dyspareunia than no pareunia at all. Like these are the things that go on behind the curtain.
Mhm.
So it's not shocking to me, understanding the culture in medicine, that women get gatekeeping and gaslighting around life-altering hormone care, but other aspects of medicine we treat risk like it's nothing. It's hypocritical.
Is it helpful that more women are doctors now? Is
Yes.
that changing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we listen.
Yeah.
But if your doctor's 30, they might, and they went through training in the last 20 years, they might not know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think 2 things, podcasts and events, podcasts like this and events like yours are critical in creating this change that we are seeking. You mentioned the media. This is a form of media in some ways, but the traditional media has a responsibility. They are covering menopause in interesting ways right now, but not the ways that I think really need to be talked about. Like they're highlighting it, but it's from almost a commodification.
See, the Women's Health Initiative was sensational news.
Yes.
And it also got really exaggerated.
Yeah.
So the media reported relative risk versus absolute risk. So it kind of reported like 27% increased risk in breast cancer, which women took as 27% of us will get breast cancer.
I just had a light bulb moment. We should have a menopause beat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like journalists and writers who only publish on menopause.
Can I just speak to something about that, Kelly? Because as we were preparing for our conversation today, we had a little discussion on the language we can use in the media.
Yeah.
And having a conversation about what's okay and not okay in terms of talking about our own anatomy publicly.
It's an issue.
It's an issue.
For sure.
There are words that are deemed inappropriate to say that are a part of the
they're medically appropriate words, but they're
words.
not appropriate to say in some it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. The shame and the stigma that we have
still
around like
right?
my part of Menopalooza process. I learned this spring that postmenopausal women who have an untreated UTI, sometimes those UTIs,
UTI is
urinary tract infection.
Yes.
The only symptom can be delirium, which can present as dementia.
Oh, right.
The only symptom.
I've seen it over and over again.
I worked at Royal Jubilee Hospital during the pandemic, and that presented a lot.
Yeah. And these are, I just want to say, like my mom, I went through, I thought my mom had Alzheimer's
Oh, wow.
until this spring.
Oh,
She had an
she got proper
untreated
care.
UTI. And what really shocked me and still
Mhm.
shocks me is that
Mhm.
these are preventable
Yep.
entirely with vaginal estrogen cream.
Yep.
Preventable. But instead of preventing with a simple cream,
Yep.
we're loading these women up with courses and courses of
Yes.
antibiotics. for
And a
years.
medical note,
Yeah.
vaginal estrogen cream, the estrogen does not get in your bloodstream
Right.
in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
Women with breast cancer can safely use it. Women who've had a stroke, a heart attack, if you're 95, and it can actually save women's lives. Less than 20% of women who need it actually get it.
I think we're going to do an entire episode on this subject. This is so important.
It's huge. And we've just literally scratched the surface
tip
of
of the
what there
iceberg.
is to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think that is a classic example of if we allowed in medicine, if we just made one simple change, if we said, you are an autonomous human being as a woman, you have a complex body with, we haven't studied it well because, hormones mess with the data. So let's just study men and pretend that it's the same in women. And we all know what a pitfall that's been. So if we could say to women, you get to decide. There's risk to having a vaginal delivery. There's risk to a C-section. You can choose. There's risks to being on hormones. There's risks to not being on hormones. You can choose. You decide what risk.
Oh.
The conversation is always about what are the risks of hormones, as if menopause is the natural, normal default that there's no risk. That's apples and kumquats. The real conversation is the risk of hormone replacement therapy compared to the risk of untreated menopause.
Right.
And for the vast majority of women, untreated menopause is riskier. But that's
and
not the conversation we're having.
riskier, and this is for the policymakers out there. It's costlier.
Hugely costly.
Hugely costlier.
We were talking when we were getting ready about, quick example, bone density testing.
Yeah.
You don't get a bone density publicly funded until you're 65, even though osteoporosis is one of the only 2 approved indications for hormones. But now we also know that women who are remote from menopause have different risks, different benefits from hormones. So by the time you find out your bones are Swiss cheese, you're 10, 15 years past menopause.
Yeah.
Not the ideal time to be starting hormones, and estrogen is the best treatment. If we did bone density screening earlier, we could prevent a lot of that osteoporosis.
Yeah.
It's that short-sighted bone density cost, but we're paying down the line with hip fractures and hip replacements,
which
and
are
morbidity
the cost
and frailty.
So just to expedite things, can we just get that bone density test lowered to the age of 50?
50, 55, at
50,
least within the
55.
window where you're a better candidate for hormones.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put that on my to-do list.
When you said bringing young women into the conversation, we build our maximum bone by basically 25.
Okay.
So educating these young girls that their nutrition, movement, and all that is important for their future health. So there's so many aspects of this where women fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And I think what Bryn and I are doing, and this group of women that we're putting together, is we're sort of putting filler in the cracks. Like we're trying to find, where do women fall through these cracks, and how can we support
that's
that?
good. That's
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got lots to
Kelly's
do.
going to write some policy now.
Bryn and I have been sitting here, and as we're talking, we're watching the cogs turn, and the ideas that you're coming up with. And I know I just love the way your brain works. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Mutual Adoration Society.
Exactly.
I do want to say that we have covered a lot of ground, but not enough today. But we have to close, and this is my last episode of the season. So I'm actually happy and sad at the same time, which is kind of the way it is.
The way it is.
Let's end on some hopeful notes. Let's talk about our hopes for the future. And we're getting emotional.
It's an emotional topic, though,
Yeah.
Kelly. it's near and dear to all of us.
Yeah.
Right. And, if you look at the three of us here, we've all walked different paths through menopause.
Yeah.
Bryn is just starting. I'm an HRT person.
Yeah.
You went through it without hormones. You're out the other side.
Yeah.
Very different paths.
Yeah.
And I said the same thing in maternity care. No two women have the exact same experience. And we
Absolutely.
have to honor the individual experience that we all have, because menopause doesn't happen in a bubble.
Mhm.
It happens in the context of your life, your relationships, aging parents, stressors, confronting aging, all of those things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just affect women, it affects everyone whose lives we touch.
Oh yeah.
But we all sort of walk a unique path. So I feel like I walk this line of honoring that unique path that each woman is on, while also finding the common themes that are unique to, like, that happen to all of us in one way or another. Women can get divided, competitive, they can tear each other down. Like, I saw that a lot in maternity. Oh, you had an epidural, you couldn't hack it, and this kind of thing. I think that's starting to fall away, because
Mhm.
what I noticed at Menopalooza and in conversations like this, it's women from diverse backgrounds with different experiences coming together and going, I see you,
Yeah.
and finding those common themes.
Isn't that a
And
beautiful thing?
yeah, it's incredible to be a part of it and to have witnessed it over years and start to see it come together in this movement where women are going, you know what? We're not taking this anymore. And we're going to actually advocate for ourselves. It's women who are changing the healthcare
Yes.
system. Because honestly, left to its own devices, it is not easy to change that system.
Yeah. And we need more women who are in these places of power and influence, and I'm not talking about just social media.
No.
I'm talking about like the real change makers that are in our spectrum to take this on.
Well, they need to be supported to take it on.
Oh,
right.
Good point.
Yeah, the
Bryn.
information, like that's how we
Yes.
right the sistering, how we lift each other through. And there's a narrative around competition with women, but I always say, I don't know if you've ever been to like a concert or a festival or a bar, and you go into the bathroom and there's a woman crying.
Yeah.
And then women just circle up around her and they're like, I will cut somebody for you. Like, you are beautiful and amazing. These are strangers. Like, given when we kind of break it down, this is how we've survived.
Yeah.
Through our connection, through our stories, through the kind of the tapestry.
That's our natural default.
That is our default setting. And we can come together and support change makers.
It's so nourishing too, right? Like they say that. Yeah.
Nothing like it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You guys, this is, I've broken my crying record on this episode. We need
to get some like pink silk jackets and be in like a menopause girl gang.
It's funny that you mentioned that.
I think that is brilliant.
That has kind of been done.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you someday. Okay. I asked you both to give it some thought about your menopause hacks. So if we could end on a good positive message for our viewers and to each other, maybe could you share your menopause?
I would love to. And I share this with any person who will listen to me. I think it's not just menopause. I think this is my number one piece of guidance as a counselor. Well, actually, my first thing is, as a counselor for 25 years, I'm going to write another book someday and call it It's Normal.
Yeah.
The reflections on 25 years as a counselor, like things that we think are abnormal, actually pretty normal.
Normal.
But what I really want to share is the concept of self-compassion as a practice.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, if beating ourselves up and made us change, the world would be a different place.
Yeah.
Our brain doesn't know the difference between physical pain and emotional pain.
Oh.
It doesn't. Our brain doesn't feel pain. It registers threat.
Oh.
So registering threat around physical pain, emotional pain, throws us into fight or flight.
Yes.
Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. People pleasing, which I like to call people pleading. We're pleading to be safe. We're pleading to be seen and heard and valued.
Yeah.
The other part of that is our brain doesn't know the difference if someone else is being mean to us or we're being mean to ourselves.
Oh. This is all new information.
It cannot tell the difference. Like Tracey said earlier, like it's inside the house.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make it better. It
Yeah.
makes it worse.
Yeah.
When the call's coming in from inside, when we're being self-critical, telling ourselves scary
Yep.
stories, being
Yep.
hard on ourselves, we're throwing ourselves into a sympathetic nervous system response.
Yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze. The world is unsafe. I am unsafe.
Yeah. Safety is such an important, and
Yeah.
there's a background to this, but safety is at the root.
It's at the root. And if we can't do that, like Tracey said, the inside work, if I'm
Mhm.
not safe with me,
Yeah.
that's like, I want you to be safe with me, but I'm not safe.
Yeah.
It starts with us. And so the active practice of self-compassion, I'm referencing Dr. Kristen Neff, Neff.
Okay.
She's got resources on her 25 years of research into self-compassion.
Okay.
Compassion it's a very simple practice. It's so simple we forget to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Spill the beans.
Okay. So compassion means recognition of suffering.
Okay.
Very simply, if I stub my toe, instead of being like, oh, you're such an idiot. Do you ever like stub your toe and then your like belt loop gets caught in something, you drop your, like all of a sudden everything is chaos because you're in fight or flight, because you've
Yeah.
hurt yourself
Yep.
and then called yourself a name
Yeah.
Mhm.
and your brain believes you.
Yeah.
So the practice
Okay.
of self-compassion is I stub my toe and I say, ouch. It's recognizing, so it's ouch, that hurt.
Or some other word,
Or
maybe.
we can curse. I love cursing. You know that. So we speak to ourselves at that point in a
Okay.
way we speak to somebody that we love.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
it. We
Can you repeat that?
we speak to ourselves in a way that we would speak to somebody that we love.
Oh,
We start to say, ouch, that hurt. That's okay. Do you need something? Like, we start to be kinder.
I'm looking at Tracey. Like,
That's hard to do, but yeah.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down. Would I say that to would I speak to somebody else like, do I have been?
yeah.
How do I want?
You must be an amazing counselor. I'm just like, I want to just sit here and like,
Well, these are all things, Kelly, I had to learn it for myself.
yeah.
Like I practice this. This is a practice that
Mhm.
I have. And I'll tell you why again, I think it is important for everyone to learn the kinder we are to ourselves,
Yeah.
the less we're in a trauma response. One,
Brilliant.
the less we're in a trauma response, the less cortisol.
Yeah.
Cortisol is linked with what?
Oh, horrible stuff. And it also messes with your reproductive hormones.
So there's a actual physical symptom, right? If we want to be able to, I can't change the medical system.
Yeah.
I can't change other people. I can't change circumstances. I can change my behavior.
Yeah.
And in that behavior, I can treat myself in a respectful, kind, dignified way.
Yes.
When that happens, for one thing, I'm not up and down
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
fight or flight, and my cortisol level, my inflammation goes down.
Yeah.
Like we are empowered in how we treat ourselves and speak to ourselves.
I hope that at Menopalooza too, this gets talked about a lot.
Again, I come back to, it's what we can do. We can do this. And
Yeah.
it is a practice. I will tell you this.
Yeah.
It's a practice. And so you're going to forget
Yeah.
and then you'll remember. And then the more you practice
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
the more it becomes a habit and right, the whole system will benefit from that.
Yeah. Thank you. Give me your hand. Tracey?
Oh, there's 100 different ways I can answer this question, but I think I'm going to leave some of it for the next time we talk. And I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Bryn said
Mm-hmm.
from the perspective of a MD who's done women's health.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of look at it as when we're mean to ourselves in our own head, which comes
Mhm.
naturally to most of us,
Mm-hmm.
and we live in a body that we're not happy with,
Mm-hmm.
and we have stuff back there in our
Mhm.
past that we haven't dealt with,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got some fear of our future. So I sort of look at your relationship with your past as your relationship with your memory,
Mm-hmm.
and your relationship with your future is your relationship with imagination.
Mm.
So if you're mean to yourself in your head, you can't stand the body you're in, you haven't reconciled with your past, and you're afraid of your future, you're in internal civil war while trying to be a mom, a wife, a
Mhm.
sister, or whatever.
Mhm.
And all of that beach ball that we've been holding underwater comes up in perimenopause if it hasn't before that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like it's hard to get women over that hurdle of how do we treat ourselves with self-compassion
Mm-hmm.
when you're in chronic fight, flight, freeze. And one of the ways I've been sort of approaching it is you don't have to love yourself, and you don't even have to like yourself to be kind to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You can love a body that needs improvement. You can love a flawed human being.
Yeah.
So people go, if I could just drill one thing into women's heads that I've had a hard time learning myself is when I lose weight, then I'll like my body. When you like your body, then
Yeah.
you might lose weight.
Yeah.
But we're living in the upside down.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been this constant process of trying to flip that around
Okay.
and sort of recognize that my whole being is calling me home to come take care of me.
Yes.
Like, I feel like I spent my whole life taking care of other women while slowly abandoning myself. And it doesn't work. And so I'm tired of offering other people water that I won't drink. I'm learning how to drink the stuff myself.
Drink the water.
Yeah. And I think this is really important to say, because a lot of people who don't know me might see me talk or see me on your podcast and think, oh, she's a doctor. She's just, look at her. She's so confident. No. I've struggled with low self-esteem, body hatred, that you name it. Self-compassion's been very hard for me to find. It's been a struggle. And because I know that struggle firsthand, I can see it in other women. And I think if we can just do that together,
Yeah.
the rest of it is easier.
Yeah.
To HRT or not HRT, to change your job or get a divorce or do this or do that. If you can just come home to yourself.
Yeah.
And find that peace in yourself, the rest of it is gravy.
Yeah.
But without that, you're on this shaky foundation.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to navigate life that way.
Yeah.
So I think that message is probably at the core
Yeah.
of why Bryn and I are doing what we're doing.
And I have to say again, like, this work is so important. I cannot express enough how much of a gift.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Well, you're part. We're together.
You're part
on
of that
this,
gift.
right?
Okay.
1,000%.
Let's make Kelly cry again.
Yeah, let's try again.
That was nonsense.
Kelly, you're so amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this.
From the bottom of my heart, Kelly, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for seeing what we have to offer and seeing what we're trying to create and just getting so excited about it and going along this journey with us. Like, I can't tell you how glad
Just
we
the
are.
beginning, ladies.
you.
Yes.
We're
Just
just
the
getting
beginning.
started.
Yeah, we
Just
are.
getting started.
Thank you, everyone, from the wonderful House of Al. This has been a great day.
Thanks, Kelly.
Oh, now I got me crying. Is everybody crying?